Guys, this is your boy Jeameave back again with ViewsFromTheHeart, and today we got a 2008 Continental GT courtesy of European Auto House right here off of La Cienega Blvd in Los Angeles, California, west side, best side. And this is the first bespoke extreme luxury vehicle that I've managed to drive. The only one of two brands that one would consider more luxury oriented than a Mercedes S-Class, because we all know Mercedes S-Class is luxury personified, sans Bentley and Rolls-Royce. And when it comes to Bentley, at least these days, Bentley's kind of looked at as like the little brother or the forgotten child compared to Rolls-Royce, at least in terms of what it's offering. But according to my guy Brian up in here, and who you'll see shortly, the GT, especially in Bentley, is meant to be more of a sporty-minded grand touring vehicle with luxury in mind. So think of a la Porsche, but with Rolls-Royce comparable levels of luxury. So let's go ahead and jump on in and see what this bad boy is all about. Alright, so what's this like driving the 2008 Bentley Continental GT? See my guy Brian sitting in the shotgun, you already know. If you guys are interested in this vehicle, be sure to hit him up at European Auto House.
Real quick, and then give yourself some space and handle.
Alright. Okay, that definitely takes off. Okay. You know, for a vehicle that weighs 5,183 pounds, that was a pretty insane pull, I'm not gonna lie. And this vehicle, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, does have a Lamborghini W12, doesn't it?
This is rocking a W12 from a Lambo. I believe it was made for one of the race engines, so there's a detuned motor that dropped into the street car, so it's not going to sound like a Lambo, but it's got all the pull of a Lambo. And let's be honest, if you're rocking a Bentley, you don't want to be louder in your face.
But it does sound very good though. It does sound very distinct, very different, and you don't really hear W12s. As far as I'm concerned, W12s aren't really used in Bentley. I don't really know, like not only specifically, but they're the main proponent of using this bespoke engine, put it that way.
Kind of. I think Rolls-Royce kind of rocked it for a little bit, but not too much. The whole reason behind 12 between an 8 is you can make an 8 go just as fast as a 12 without too much power, without too much what's it called, effort. But the whole reason behind a 12, just like an 8 behind a 6,
naturally balanced, and it's
naturally balanced. The firing order makes it very smooth. The whole reason for a bigger motor is there's no replacement for displacement. You hear that saying all the time, and the reason behind it is the smoothness of it. You're not pushing the motor too hard. I mean, you got some 4-bangers out there that are putting 500 horses down to the wheels, but you can hear it, you can feel it when you push on the gas. It's straining. It'll do it very well.
Yeah, this has a lot of low-end torque, which is pretty nice. This has 550 horsepower and around 550 torque as well, which is pretty amazing. And like I said, this is a 2008, and it's nearly a decade-old vehicle. But as you guys can see in the interior, this vehicle is completely bespoke. It's literally one of the finest, if not the finest vehicle I've ever had the pleasure of sitting in.
We'll get you a couple more better cars, don't worry about it.
But at the end of the day though, despite the fact that this is a decade old, you can see the quality and see that this vehicle is very well taken care of. You know, this color in and of itself can be sort of a maintenance drama queen, if you will, in terms of keeping it pristine. And the previous owner of this vehicle, obviously, because this vehicle starts at close to $200,000, you know, this is the kind of owner. Actually, Brian, we taking you through what is the typical Bentley purchaser, the Bentley owner, brand new, not used, but what they have going on in their life.
Your typical clientele for a Bentley is one of the younger generation, one of your younger crowds, what you call new money, people who just worked for their money, didn't really inherit it. They enjoy driving.
Major key.
They really enjoy driving because you can ask them yourself, this is a driver's car. You can always buy another car. I think he mentioned it earlier, an S-Class, which you'll get the luxury. It won't be
you'll get the most bang for your buck in terms of, it's still a very expensive and unattainable for most people, brand new in S-Class. But to me, that's where you see your money. You see the quality, and you're not spending money purely for a name or ridiculous things like sheepskin carpeting or something stupid like that.
Yes, it may be stupid, but it's the right amount of stupid.
Yeah, that was really clean. It's the right amount of pull to separate you, and that's pretty much what it boils down to.
And you gotta keep in mind, this car is meant to be a grand touring car, so it's meant to hit the Autobahn at a very comfortable speed. You're meant to maintain those high speeds very comfortably. Your S-Class can maintain that very well, but at the end of the day, it won't deliver the same performance. Even if you go into the S600 or your Maybach, whatever you want to call it, and you have that same 12-cylinder motor, it won't deliver the same way. This car, it's unique in the fact that you want to drive it. You always want to be in it. You want to hit downshift. You always want to live in sport mode, as he's doing right now. Oh, there's a sport suspension. We didn't turn it on, but it's all good.
No,
so it's
actually,
things like that, you know.
We got sport mode with comfort suspension going on right now. It feels, I'm feeling absolutely no jitters, bumps, or anything like that. And unfortunately, I'm not in Inglewood, where I'm usually am with my videos that tends to have the worst streets that anyone that travels to Inglewood would know. But out here, you know, the streets in LA in general aren't the best everywhere in and of itself. But generally, I'll try and explain in my videos, especially because I have a 335i, and that's a pretty decent driver's car. It's not a 911 or anything like that, but it's an affordable driver-centric car that gives me enough feedback. E92 335i with hydraulic power steering. People understand and know that when you drive a car like that, you're driving it with the intention of feeling imperfections on the road and just overall trying to convey and impart driving-centric and driver-focused driving.
And I'm glad you hit that point, because that's exactly what the Bentley brand really tries to convey, and that's exactly what type of demographic this brand brings. With the same amount of money,
is this sports steering though?
I don't think so. You don't have a sports steering in this car.
Okay, my apologies.
And your speed, you do. This is not a speed.
This is your straight line saloon that I will admit it's not necessarily the most, like, whenever I do vehicles, I try to talk about what the steering feel and what the transient feedback that it gives me, and in here it's pretty vague, but it's vague to the point where I'm still cognizant of what I'm doing. It's kind of weird, and I've never really experienced it before.
That's actually a Volkswagen thing. Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, well, I shouldn't say Porsche, but throughout that type of make, they've always had that type of steering wheel feedback. So people with
like it's just very light. Exactly. Like I've driven a few Audis before. Like I did a A7, and the steering was vague, but also so I do understand what you're saying too. It's not the most confidence inspiring thing, but I guess if you're used to it, you know how to handle it.
Exactly. So it's not really, you don't really feel the road, you don't really feel all the bumps and stuff. And the reason they do that is because they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to feel that, because they are trying to be upper class. They are trying to do this, and if you feel like your S-Class also doesn't really feel every type of road too well. So it's just one of those type of things. And in your Bentley, they don't want you to feel that, because your typical Bentley driver is not going to be driving this on the track.
That's crazy.
This car does make a track version. They do have a GT3 on this, and the back seats go away, and you get a roll cage, and a couple nice stripes here and there and stuff.
This low end torque is ridiculous. I'm so used to driving a turbo car. Stepping into this, I could feel like every nuance of the engine as I'm revving it up, and that's incredible in and of itself. Despite the fact that it doesn't rev that high, it just has pull, and it just goes and goes and goes at pretty much any RPM, and that's a very good feeling. And anybody that drives turbo cars knows that if you're not in the correct gear, if you're in too low of a depending on what size turbo you have to be at the right RPM to be able to get the most amount of power at any given point.
Yeah, the power band is pretty usable in this car. It's pretty nice. Like I said, they do make a straight track version, and they do make a speed version. So this is the base model, and for you to have this in the base model is still pretty nice. So you can only imagine how much your speed and your GT3 will be. Exactly.
Like I said, this is pushing 552 horsepower, and it does have a curb weight of 5,183 pounds. And the Bentley, especially the GT back in a decade ago, was synonymous with being the baller status. The Rolls-Royce really wasn't popping back then. It wasn't really until BMW took over Rolls-Royce that Rolls-Royce has sort of a renaissance period and coming back. Whereas Bentley has kind of waned a little bit, and they're coming back now as of recently. But this, back in 2005 to 2008 to 2010, this was the vehicle that you saw in all the rapper videos. Everything that personified baller status was made with this in mind, and I can see why. Like I said, this is different from your S-Class coupe or anything like that, and this is what you want for something that is powerful but yet has luxury that can't really be matched outside of like Rolls-Royce. And the only step down from this would be an S-Class, and we all know that that caters to a very more antiquated crowd, to say the least.
Oh yeah.
So when this popped into the scene, when Bentley brought out the Continental GT, this vehicle appealed to, like as Brian mentioned earlier and as aforementioned, a crowd that came into new wealth and wanted something that was comfortable, flashy, has great road presence, but just does this. Oh my god, that's ridiculous low end torque though. That's actually insane. I'm actually bewildered as to how this vehicle weighs so much. This is one of the... I did a Jeep SRT 4.
Oh, that's a nice car though.
I mean, sorry, SRT. I don't know what the hell I was talking about. Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT 8. All-wheel drive, 485 horsepower. It was very nice, but you could feel the weight. And that was 5,000 pounds and 500 pounds. This is 5,183. It doesn't feel that large. And yes, this has, you know, like 60 horsepower more, 70 horsepower more than the SRT Jeep Grand Cherokee. That still felt fast, but this feels blistering fast. Like it has no reason to be this fast and weigh this much, which is incredible to me at the same time. This is
the slowest Bentley GT they made.
I mean, I don't think you ever really classify 150 horsepower as slow, but I understand what you mean in terms of, you know, their specs and trim levels. And again, brand new, this is $200,000, but although a decade later, you know, it's actually relatively affordable.
Very, very, very affordable. Just make sure you guys get a very nice one. Make sure it hasn't been abused. If it hasn't been abused, it'll treat you like any other car, and it'll take care of you forever.
And like I said, usually you can tell how a car is kept, judging it by the interior. And I think it's safe to say that this was bought by a gentleman that definitely took care of this vehicle, because it's clean on the inside and outside. And like I said, the interior, there's no scratches, no dings, or anything. You'd have a lovely time in here.
Thank you for bringing that up. So that's another thing that makes Bentley a Bentley. So most of these interiors, you said before, was bespoke. This one is bespoke, but let's say you just picked one off the factory line and you just had no desire of making it your own, right? You still have the finest leather. So these cows, bless their hearts, were only fed the best food. There's no pesticides or anything, so they're kept in a farm where there are no outside elements, so you won't get any mosquito bites. So these leather is the finest. Your wood is built in a forest that is, the tree's only purpose in life is to make this nice interior. So I know I'm getting a little off topic and stuff, but
no, that's actually really good information.
Yeah, that's the little things that makes Bentley a Bentley, and it's not the only one that does that. You know, Rolls-Royce does that too. Exactly. But Rolls-Royce takes it another step further.
But for the most part, these two brands, Bentley and Rolls-Royce, are pretty much the only brands that go out of their way to offer a bespoke experience. And a lot of people say bespoke, but when it really comes down to the nitty-gritty, very few car manufacturers go down to the very minute detail and offer something like, literally, we're sitting on cows, rest their souls, rest in peace, God bless their souls, that they were raised for the sole purpose of being used within this vehicle. And as harsh as that is to say, no expenses spared in this vehicle.
And if you don't believe me, walk into any dealership and you literally have a showroom with a 200-page books where you can customize every piece of this vehicle, every
detail, every nuance. And like I said, there is no place in here that I can touch where I feel like as if I've been cheated, and there better not be no damn place I could possibly be cheated, considering the fact that, at least brand new anyway, this vehicle was pushing $200,000, and which is insane. And you know, a lot of vehicles these days love to push exorbitant numbers, backing it up with exorbitant horsepower and things of that nature, but they always try and skip in some places. But one thing I've noticed, although I haven't driven a Rolls Royce, I have had the pleasure of looking inside of one, and comparing it to this, Bentley and Rolls Royce are the two brands that understandably offer an experience where literally no expense is spared. There's no place you can look at in here and you could feel that you've been cheated. And understanding that that better well damn be the case, because the people that buy these vehicles usually buy it cash. They don't have time.
Right.
They don't have time to wait around and dilly-dally. They expect the best. They want the best, and they know what the best is. So this is why these two brands in and of itself are made for the people that have the money and the means to acquire said vehicles. You know, this is you're looking down at your peasants in your vehicle. I walked around in here and think about all the speed limits that I am not breaking.
I was surprised. He's been very, very, very let's just say nice on the throttle.
Yes, I respect other people's vehicles that are not mine, but I respect my own car too.
Let's unrespect this a little bit then.
But overall, like I said, this is also all-wheel drive, so despite the fact that like again, it weighs 5,183 pounds, it moves this 5,183 pound vehicle extremely well with 552 horsepower. And like I said, this W12 sounds very distinct, and it sounds very clean. And of course, alrighty, my eyes. Okay, so let's see here. Just waiting for this light to turn. But yeah, going back on the top of this vehicle, this is a very lovely vehicle, and again, this vehicle is available at European Auto House right here off of La Cienega. Do you know the exact address, Brian?
1910 La Cienega.
Alright, there you go. You have it, people. 9010 La Cienega Blvd in Los Angeles, California. If you want this particular vehicle, I give it 2 thumbs up. It's a definitely lovely experience, and this is a perfect street right here they have massive construction going on right here. The street is awful, it's terrible, but at the same time, this is a lovely comparison as to how exactly and how well this Bentley handles it. Like I said, surprisingly, taking some of the turns that I took, there was very little body sway, which is clean. It's actually surprising considering, again, I'm trying to reiterate and emphasize the fact that this vehicle weighs so much.
And it's made in 2008.
Made in 2008, but yet it feels very well put together. There's no creaks, there's no rattles. I don't feel like there's some sort of issue with this or benign issue, whatever. It feels strong, and you would be, if you were to come in here sight on scene, you would never ever guess or think that this was a...
Oh, that's a nice pull. There you go.
That low end torque is insane. I don't know how this car does that, but it just low end grunt. It just feels like a brolicky, jacked up German beast, even though it's not German, but well, it's earned by a German company, parent company, we'll put it that way. But
yes.
But remember, this is owned by Volkswagen Auto Group, which also owns Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi.
That's right.
And so on and so forth. But like I said,
so this is the best Volkswagen you can buy.
And you know, it actually that's why it does kind of lend credence to the fact that it looks like a little bit like a Beetle.
Kind of, yeah.
In its own way, you know. Obviously, Bentley owners out there, don't get mad at me. That's no disrespect. I actually like the Beetle too. But yeah, like I said, horrible street, but we're in comfort. Have the AC on low, windows up, a little bit of tint in here. Absolutely comfortable. And the incredible thing is too, the sound deadening in here. I cannot hear a single thing outside. It's literally whisper quiet in here. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be the vehicle that has the most pristine audio of all time coming from my camera, because there's no outside noise, there's no ambient noise, no anything other than my voice and Brian's voice and the occasional pull from this sumptuous W12. And for people that don't know, a W12 is basically 2 V6s put together, which forms a W, you know, like this. So keep that in mind. Actually, we can't do that. We have to go through the alley.
Oh yeah. LA construction. What else?
Yeah, I know. I was surprised myself. But like I said, this vehicle is available at European Auto House. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. Appreciate you, Brian, so much for this.
Because I know,
because I know it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for you. But like I said, this Bentley Continental GT is available at European Auto House, and it's a very lovely vehicle. And by all means, I now understand what it is to ride, and something that I understand why people would get something like this. Now, granted, would I still buy something like this brand new? I can probably never justify purchasing a vehicle so expensive brand new, even if I had the means.
Make a couple more videos and I'll see you in a brand new Bentley soon.
That's true, but at the end of the day, it's still a very expensive car, but I understand and I can see the quality, and that's what matters most. Is if when you're spending money, do you see it? Do you understand it? Is it tangible? Does it make sense? And to some people it won't, but to some people that just want to be different and stand out and know where their money's going, Bentley is one of the ways to go. That's for damn sure.
At the end of the day, it's the driver's car, and there's nothing I can say, there's nothing he can say until you get behind the wheels and step on the gas. The Rolls Royce will treat you nice and lovely too, but it won't drive the same. Same with the S Class. Both lovely cars. I would take an S Class any day of the week. It still won't drive like a Bentley.
Nope, it won't. But can't really cruise in here. Right, let me try and squeeze. No, this is a very large car. I want to be very careful now.
And yet, it's very nimble, as you just found out.
That was pretty.
You can get this through LA traffic, no problem. Which you just did.
Yeah, exactly. But again, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, thank you so much for European Auto House. Your boy Jeameave is out. This is Views from the Heart. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. it.